Hey guys, I'm over here. I'm at the creek. And I set up my bench seat that I made. My first thing I created when I learned to weld a few years ago. It's not very pretty, but it works. Um, got a few things to share with you. Hopefully everything's working out. The camera's working right. The waterfall is right here. Before I leave, when we get done, I'll turn the camera and I'll show you how this bench seat is set up where we can look over at the waterfall. But if you look that way, that's where the creek comes. So if you're watching this on a bigger screen or one of these really high definition monitors, if you don't mind, please keep an eye on that down the creek, because down that direction, I'm at Camp Carey. Camp Carey is right here, where Kerry Arnold and Mark Zaski actually pitched tent is within 50 foot of where I'm sitting. But we got just a few things to share with you, and these are some comments, and our brother Don Moore was checking the comments for me. He helps me out as far as trying to respond to comments when we get some. He's been helping me when he can, and he's seen these comments and reached out to me about them, and I said, well, because he thought it'd be good to share them, and those of you that have been commenting, y'all are part of our family here. The majority of the comments that we receive are part of our family, our YouTube family, our extended family. And for those, if you didn't see these comments, it's just a few of them. And what I'll do, I'm going to read the comments, and on screen I will put the YouTube name that left the comment as I'm reading these comments. And then we'll get on to something else I have to share with you. But it's getting late in the afternoon, so I don't have a lot of time. It's been really hot today, and I just finished setting this bench up, and I'm taking a break while I have time and going to try to get an article or two done. But I wanted to get this out there and get it shared. Now this is from Riffraff SRC. I'm sorry. They reply, "Hi Donnie, I've been following you since I first saw you on Carrie's channel. Thanks for sharing everything. I've been studying the forest people for over 40 years now, and I'll be 62 in August. Back in the early 2000s, I became friends with the researcher Robert W. Morgan, and we became friends, and he taught me a lot about them. He learned a lot about them from native peoples all over the country, including the Miccosukee there in Florida. The rocks and feathers," and he's referring to the ones that I keep finding that are ending up in my vehicle and my tree stands. He says, "Those rocks and feathers, they're gifts to you. It's their way of thanking you or showing respect to you. If they have taken anything from around your land, such as animals, birds, domestic or wild, fruit, veggies, or fish, etc., it's their small way of letting you know that they were there. This means that they think you are already aware of them. Sometimes they will gift things they think you have shown an interest in. Other times it's just something they think is pretty or useful. I know that you were severely traumatized, but I can assure you that if they had bad intentions towards you, you would have disappeared a long time ago. Just always be respectful of them. Show them open palms, and especially don't point any weapons at them. And tell them out loud that you mean them no harm and that you are a friend. They understand, maybe not the words, but the good intention. They obviously think good of you, or they wouldn't leave the tokens for you to find. Take care and God bless you all, brother. And yes, they understand voice and intention better than English. I think some of them have been around enough humans to understand some words of English, but mostly it's showing them open hands to show that you have no weapons, and speaking calmly and in a friendly tone. They get it. Yep, absolutely. I'm in agreement with that. And thank you tremendously for leaving that comment. And these comments, uh, they were on the video that I uploaded, another event near Jeff's Corner. That's where these comments came from, that particular video. Oh, these mosquitoes are eating me up. All right, the next one is from Forest8976. They write, I believe we need to remember that the forest people have a very different way of going about things. I believe that they are truly more good and peaceful forest people than there are bad ones. How many times have they protected us from other more nefarious life forms that exist in the wild? It would be interesting to know the number of times. Learning about what other nefarious beings exist and hunt humans would be a shock. Donnie is a very blessed man, and I know he had a very intense situation in the past with a protector. The protectors have a job of protecting their people. Until they find out a person's true intentions, they may scare the life out of us. I believe they respect Donnie, and these are gifts he is receiving. Yeah, I believe you're right. I do agree with that. Most definitely agree with that. And thank you for contributing. You know, it's the input that we get from all of you that is building this up to where we've got a better understanding of who these beings are. You know, what their intentions are. We'll never truly know until they come forward and share their lives and their ways with us, you know, one-on-one. Then we'll, all of us will know by then. All right, this next comment is from James Johnson FB4IO. Me, my son, and a buddy of mine were hunting turkeys in the Black Hills some years ago. We stopped in one area to scout. We walked on a narrow ridge, and there was only one direction to get back to the truck. We each had a new GPS, and before heading back, we took out our new toys and we turned them on and were comparing them. We started to head back when the instruments connected to another satellite. Both GPSs, they read the same direction to get back, but it was the wrong direction, and there was only one way to go. I have no idea what happened, not to just one, but two GPSs, and it's never happened again. James, right there, that's, you know, many of us have experienced those oddities that happen with our cell phones and other electronics, and I've witnessed it several times. Jeff's Corner, from where I'm sitting right now, is upstream from here, and it's roughly 400 yards, I would say, is where it begins, and then it goes from that point to the other boundary line. And over there, some days you go in there and there's no issues at all, but 9 times out of 10, you'll start having issues with battery drain. You'll have no connection if you're using like a wireless mic act up on you. The main thing is battery drain, and your compass does not give the correct latitude, longitude. It's way off. If you can get up in there and mark where true north is showing on your compass, your actual glycerin bulb compass, and you can walk out of Jeff's Corner and point it at the same waypoint, the barren line where you originally checked it, and it'll show north as being in a completely different direction. There's something under the ground in that area that is messing things up. But yes, I've experienced that too. I don't have an explanation as to why it happens. Personally, I think it's either something underground that's interfering with the electronics, the chips that are in these devices, or it's something supernatural that we just don't understand that is intentionally interfering with them. I don't know. It's scary. I don't like it when my GPS, and especially when I'm plotting my track so that I can backtrack the same way that I went to get back to my vehicle. When it messes up, that it screws up my path and it's not showing it on the screen no more, that gets scary. And for me personally, it gets scary. All right, this next one is from Haley Nicole, 1691. She writes, me and my husband have been watching your videos for a while now, and we just realized we live in the same area as you. We are from the Bonifay, Bethlehem area. We now live in Hartford, Alabama. Such a small world. I have also been having strange things happening around our home and also on my father's property in Alabama. That's where my first encounter occurred. We'd like to share some of our experiences with you. We're so glad we found someone from our area who has an open mind and is actually aware of these beings. I would absolutely love to talk with you guys. If you're here, and that's Haley Nicole 1691. If you're watching this video, please shoot me an email. My email address is standinggoatsrescue@yahoo.com, and I will absolutely respond to you, and maybe we can line something up. I would love to meet you guys and talk to you and learn about what you've experienced. And it's all we can do from one another's encounters is learn. And I'm big on that. I want to know everything there is to know about them. I'm not a researcher, but I do want to learn so that I can avoid them, when at all possible. And also that where they were from, that Bonifay, Bethlehem area, I have talked to several people. I actually went to a home up there, and they were having a lot of problems. And they were getting a tapping on the window, slapping the side of the house. They would plant a garden, and the garden would just get trampled. It'd get smashed to the ground once everything sprouted up. They weren't taking vegetables and fruits out of the garden. They were killing everything, just trampling it. But that's in the Bonifay area, and that is not far from us at all. And Hartford, it's not that much further than Bonifay. Hartford is basically the next big town up, and Hartford's small. It's not a big town at all. It's small, but it's a beautiful area. It is all country. It's farmland, and the people in Hartford are absolutely amazing. They have a four-way stop and a Hardee's and a hardware store, and that's about it. It's not a big area, but it's a nice area. I'd love to own property up there. Hartford's beautiful. We used to buy our feed from there for the pigs many, many years ago. All right, but thank you, Haley. Thank you guys for writing in or leaving a comment. All right, this one is from Kastah, Kastah. They write, hello, Mr. Donnie. If all those piglets grow up, there will be a lot of pigs to harvest up there. Oh, it's so good that you got a gift from the big guys. Say thanks at the spot they left it. It means that one is a nice guy, and if that one is friendly, he or they will protect you against dogmen, etc. About the forest people in that screenshot, they are also friendly, and obviously you have mostly good entities on your property. I think you should thank them all for protecting you and your land. I hope you're able to relax more hearing this. What is that bush on the right side with the huge leaves? I'm not sure which bush that is. Most of them in this area that have the huge leaves where I'm at is either magnolia or palmetto bushes. Now, I'm not sure the one you're referring to. I don't have internet down here to pull that video up and see. Then he writes, I never saw them earlier, referring to the bush with the big leaves. The big guys and forest people are very spiritual. You have human spirits around you too, and that is because you are a very spiritual person. Take care and love to you all. P.S. They all read our minds, so you can say thanks that way too, in your mind. I wish you were able to bring a drone if you have one. And yes, it does look like an X. And that's the end of those few comments. And we're going to try to start sharing comments, the ones where people are, just they're sharing things that just they're uplifting in a way, but they're also contributing to the rest of us. Just the smallest bit of knowledge, the smallest little insight someone can provide, whether it be intentional or on accident, helps. It all helps. But to those of you that have left comments on that video, another event near Jeff's Corner, the High Strangeness event, thank you all. I'm absolutely just extremely honored that you guys have done that. And I wish I had the time to go through all of our comments, and I just can't keep up with them no more. I had to back off the comments several years ago because it was overwhelming me. Once I would respond to one, I would have to respond to everyone. And it would take 3 to 4 hours out of every day. And I've got so much going on, I don't have the time to do that. And that's where Brother Don's been helping me when he gets time. All right, now we're going to move on to some encounters. The sun's still up a little bit, so we're good. This area feels creepy, but it always feels creepy. It's nothing out of the ordinary right now. All right, this one, we're jumping over to the werewolf creatures now. This one's titled Werewolf Encounters in Germany. The year is from November of 1972 and an unknown but recent year. The locations is Wildflecken in central Germany and the Black Forest in southwestern Germany. The information source for this article is multiple eyewitness testimony. The preface reads, sightings of dogmen, upright walking canines that often resemble the iconic werewolf and who have also been called walking wolves have been rising over this past decade. While the eyewitness encounters with these creatures range from the bizarre to the downright terrifying, most reports are fairly recent, usually appearing after the Beast of Bray Road legend began to take hold of the popular consciousness, leading skeptics to believe that most stories of giant dog monsters are simply tall tales piggybacking on the popularity of Wisconsin's Beast. However, older encounter stories do pop up that predate the current dogman explosion, and ancient texts describe tribes of them that used to exist in India, Scotland, the Andaman Islands, Libya, and other locations. Now, to Wildflecken, central Germany. Wildflecken is a municipality in the Bad Kissingen district at the border of northwestern Bavaria and southern Hesse. It is in the picturesque Rhone Mountains. Another terrifying resident seems to haunt the heavily wooded areas in this region. One man claims to have encountered a dogman in Germany back in 1972, and he goes into great detail, not just about its appearance, but how he believes the creature might be related to an ancient agrarian cult of farmland protectors. He states, in the fall of 1972, while I was camping, I saw one of these so-called dogmen. I was an army brat living in West Germany in a place called Wildflecken. It has a heavily wooded area, and there were lots of places for a 12-year-old boy to go camping. I was with a friend, and it was about 9 p.m. at the time, the month of November. We had built a fire, and I remember my friend was sitting cross-legged next to the fire. I was directly across from him doing something, and we were in a tiny clearing with evergreens all around. We were talking to each other when all of a sudden this very tall creature standing on 2 legs, which looked a bit like a German shepherd, stepped out of the foliage. It was about 6 or 7 feet tall. I distinctly remember the tall ears, the long snout, the heavy shoulders, the long tail, and bent dog legs. It seemed to be muscular in build and had a thick upper body and a narrow lower body. It was colored the same as a German shepherd. The thing stepped over the fire between us and was gone in a quick second. It was extremely fast. We both exclaimed at the time, "What the heck was that?" before running as fast as we could to my friend's house. We locked ourselves in his basement and we slept there for the rest of the night. We never spoke of it again. We didn't know what we saw, but it never made any aggressive gestures or noises at us. I have conducted much research since the age of the computer about what I saw and even bought books on the subject. All the legends I have gone through makes me think, if legends are true, this could have been a Bendandanti werewolf. They are not evil, and they only try to protect the farmer's crops against evil spirits. That's fascinating. A werewolf created to protect farmers' crops against evil spirits. That is extremely interesting. Alright, this encounter is the Black Forest in southwestern Germany. The Black Forest is a mountainous region in southwest Germany bordering France. Known for its dense evergreen forests and picturesque villages, it is often associated with the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. It's renowned for its spas and cuckoo clocks produced in the region since the 1700s. The region's largest town, Freiburg, is filled with Gothic buildings and surrounded by vineyards. However, excuse me, pardon me. However, another resident has inhabited this forest for years, one that is common in North America and other parts of the world, and can be terrifying to encounter. One German relates how he leads hiking tours through the remote Black Forest in Germany. At one point, he started finding these massive canine-like prints by the trails he used that gave him chills. The locals in the area had always whispered of werewolves stalking these woods, but he always dismissed the tales as fabrication and superstition until dusk one day when he heard rustling behind him in the brush. He turned around to see a towering figure step out of the brush. He said it was a massive wolf standing upright like a man, at least 7 feet tall, with his eyes glowing a yellow amber color as it watched him. After staring at each other for a short time, the creature bounded away back through the brush faster than any natural beast could do. Now the man says he will not hike here in the Black Forest either by himself or leading others on a hike without a rifle, just in case this monster crosses paths with him again. Now guys, for these articles on the werewolf, if you'll check in the description below, if you are not subscribed to Brother Don Moore's channel, please do so. He uploads the pictures and any videos that are associated with these articles. He puts them on his channel. And the video that he has, whatever articles that I share with you, Brother Don provides that material for us. And if there's pictures associated with it, if you'll go to his channel, and he will have his videos titled the same title as what I have in mine, but he'll put a notation to where you know that it is the pictures for the articles that I've shared with you. And he does have pictures and video for these two articles here. And the link to his channel will be in the description below. And if I remember, I'm so sorry, I gotta get some water down my throat. If I remember, I'll have to get with him. There's a lot of coordination and me uploading these videos and then him uploading the photos so that they land together. So it's a little tricky to get the link to his video because he has to upload it excuse me, gosh, he has to upload his video before I can get the link to it. And we like to get the articles up and then have the pictures follow close behind them. But I will definitely put the link to his channel. And if you don't mind, please support our brother Don Moore. He's the one that does all this work to get these articles to us. And as you see, he sends them to me in an envelope. And he puts everything in these plastic sleeves. Because of my insane sweating, it ruins the pages. But I'm old-fashioned, and I love reading them off paper. Let me see what, this in here is pretty long. Pardon me. Gosh. Not sure which one this is. Okay, that ain't the one I'm looking for. I'm sorry. I did not put these in any type of order before I left. There we go. All right. I'm going to throw these back in here. Every now and then I'm getting a little bit of a breeze, and I don't want these papers to blow off in the creek, because then I have to go after them. And I've got my ACDSAF boots on. Guys, I have wore the tar out of these things. I love them. If you haven't gotten you a pair of them, you ought to check it out. They are so comfortable. Oh, I needed that. That's a bottle of ice, and I just let it melt. Oh, excuse me. And I'm very wet. I'm from sweating today. All right, let's see what we got here. This one's going to be long, but we are going to do it. I'm just keeping an eye on the sun. The area that I'm at, I don't want to be over here when it gets dark. The four-wheeler is back behind me up the hill here, so it wouldn't take me long to get on and get out of here. But I've got the dolly, the hand truck that I brought to haul this bench from the house over to here, and I don't even have it connected to the four-wheeler right now, so I still got to tie all that up before I leave. But anyhow, all right, this one's long, 17 pages. Now guys, there is photos and a video for these. And again, check out Brother Don's channel. His YouTube channel link is in the description below if you're not already subscribed to him. All right, this is titled Martin Grove's Narrow Escape from Killer Dogman and Bigfoot, 1993, Land Between the Lakes Terror. The year was 1993 in the month of April. Locations: Dover, Tennessee, which is Stewart County, Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area, Blue Springs Road, Woodlands Trace National Scenic Byway Highway 49, and the South Welcome Station. The information sources for this article is 2023 interview with Martin Groves, police reports, multiple eyewitnesses, search teams, and local TV segments. The preface reads, what is Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area? It's a 171,289 acre national recreation area in southwestern Kentucky that spans south into northwestern Tennessee, and it sits between Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake. It is managed by the United States Forest Service and was established in 1963. The history goes back nearly 200 years, when in the 1830s or 1840s it was called Between the Rivers. It spans 3 counties, Lyon and Tigg counties in Kentucky and Stewart County in Tennessee. It is 40 miles long, north to south, and 6 to 8 miles wide. There is 300 miles of undeveloped shoreline for recreation and 500 miles of trails. There are many designated hunting areas. Running through the middle of this continuously from north to south is a road called Woodlands Trace National Scenic Byway Highways 453 and 49. Locals refer to this road as just the Trace. The area spans from Grand Rivers, Kentucky at the north end to about Dover, Tennessee at the south. It is a beautiful yet isolated wilderness area full of wildlife, bison and elk in designated areas, hills, flowers, fields, waterways, primitive campgrounds, welcome stations, natural museums, hiking and bike trails, and 16 designated hunting areas. You could say this area can be compared to what Yellowstone is to people out west. There are many cemeteries that dot the 40-mile-long island, around 250 of them. Graves of white settlers, infants, slaves, American natives, and Chinese. Thousands of people are buried here spanning centuries. Many are generations of the same family. The oldest graves date to the 1700s. Despite all the beauty the park offers, there is a dark, dangerous, sinister side to this area, consisting of hunters being stalked by wild, unknown animals, missing hikers, missing bow hunters, murdered and partially eaten campers and hunters by wild, unknown animals, and high strangeness, like dimensional portals opening with a large translucent crawler-like creatures emerging only to run off into the dark night, and other strange metallic-like sounds. Here are a few following cases from the land between the lakes. Number 1. Way back in 1902, two brothers shot a gorilla wolf-like creature somewhere in the land between the lakes area. The exact location is unknown. Number 2. In July of 1978 in Grand Rivers, Kentucky, Jan Thompson's cousin was chased in the woods on his motorbike by a dogman creature who followed her cousin back to their driveway, causing Jan and her cousins to run inside their locked house for safety. And Jan had a sketch done of the creature. Number 3. In October of 1979, a man named Glenn, who worked for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, was on his patrol boat at the time at Craven's Bay off the Cumberland River in Eddyville, Kentucky, and he watched helplessly as two campers, a man and a woman, got slaughtered at their bayside campsite at Craven's Bay Campground by what he described as a lying hyena type of dogman. Number 4. On April 7th, 1982, a camping family of 4, a father, a mother, a son, and daughter, were slaughtered outside and inside their camper by what one paranormal researcher who did a remote viewing of the event described as multiple hyena-like dogmen creatures. The Riverside campsite location is in the northern end of the LBL, with the address being Grand Rivers. From Woodlands Trace Road, you turn north onto FD 301, and Mount Pleasant Cemetery will be on the left, and across from the cemetery on the right is a gated, closed dirt road. It is the first gated road on the right that heads east and dead ends near the Cumberland River, which is the location of the mysterious concrete bunkers, as they are called, and the area of the supposedly fatal campsite murder location. Excuse me. Another fifth person, a teenager at the time, claimed to have been there but survived by hiding under the camper. This last part has been challenged, though, as being fabricated. Number 5. On October 15th of 2005, Robert per year, age 46, was found dead after a search of the northern part of the LBL in Lyon County, Kentucky. He was reported missing by his family after not showing up for work. Search canine teams found his pickup truck but didn't find him nearby. Eventually, his body was found by police dogs and he was pronounced dead at the scene. The cause of his death and condition of his body were kept from the public and not available. It is not said in the news article. The Murray Ledger and Times staff report of October 24, 2005, if he was a bow hunter or even if he was hunting or camping. It's been said this real case from 2005 may be the basis what others have called the missing bow hunter case. For example, Mark Machek stated in an interview that in 2007 a bow hunter was going to camp all weekend and come back on Monday. He did not return, so his wife reported him missing to the authorities and a search began. They found his vehicle and campsite, but not the hunter. They called search and rescue off due to bad weather. They brought cadaver dogs and finally found the body and sent the body to autopsy. Number 6. In 2019 or 2020, a husband and wife went hiking on one of the trails and disappeared. Their family alerted the police. Their vehicle was located, but no trace of them has ever been found. Though some may be familiar with these cases, there are 2 other cases from April of 1993. A hunter named Martin Groves and his partner Harry that narrowly escaped a killer pack of stalking dogman creatures and Bigfoots. In fact, the main dogman that entered their camp with a hunk of fresh meat dripping blood from its clawed hand may have been the same dogman that had earlier dragged a nearby bow hunter out of his tent and killed him and partially ate him. And he was found by turkey hunters who stumbled upon the campsite, a story heard by some. Want to find out possibly what the metallic sound is that many report hearing, including Martin, and is associated with the presence of cryptids and missing people? Listen to Martin Groves' own words about his harrowing escape from true monsters and what he is told happened to the murdered bow hunter by officials at the park. Retired ex-police officer Martin Groves' testimony and his background. I am Martin Groves, a retired police officer, and I was an officer for 32 years of my life ever since I was 18 years of age. I started in a small town in Kentucky, and I did it because I wanted to help people. I spent all of my late teens and adult life being trained as a police officer. I liked what I was doing and continued with my career. Over time, I was trained to do police work of every kind, basic and advanced criminal investigation, from car vandalism to complex homicides. I've done it all, but it's still hard work. It's still hard to talk about because some people take it wrong when you say you are very well trained as a police officer could be. In 1993, I was a deputy sheriff at a local sheriff's department here in Tennessee. I had been with this department since 1986 and was on patrol. I had been with this department since 1986 and was a patrol deputy for Robertson County Sheriff's Office located at 507 South Brown Street in Springfield, Tennessee. I was there in total from 1986 to 2012 or 2013 when I had a 911 call and was injured and could not return back to work because of injuries to my legs, and I retired. Preparing for a turkey hunting trip and camp setup. In 93, I was working the midnight shifts at that time. Me and my co-worker decided to take a trip, camp out, and do some turkey hunting at Land Between the Lakes on the Tennessee side. We planned for weeks. I never revealed my hunting partner's name for privacy reasons, but I will tell you he has passed away, and I will use the name Harry. Harry was a highly respected man who I worked with for years. As a team, folks would call us unmatched in not being afraid of tackling anything that befell us in law enforcement. With the two of us, we never did have any issues together in all police work situations we were in. In March of '93, we began to get geared up for the trip to go into a primitive campsite and decided to go the last of April. We had the proper permits with us to do turkey hunting in the state of Tennessee. We located several food plots in the area and we knew they would produce turkeys. We went in on a Friday and found a nice campsite in the middle of nowhere. Let me explain for folks that have never been in the land between the lakes. For this part of Tennessee, the LBL is like Yellowstone or some similar national park. 177,000 acres of sheer wilderness. Nothing is in between. Very few buildings. Only of government use for different reasons. Nothing else but trees, lakes, waterways, and such. We found a nice spot on the Kentucky-Tennessee line, and we settled in for the first night. A quiet first night and a silent forest. The first night went quietly. The isolation here meant no sounds of cars, no electrical, no lights, and the only sound may be an occasional boat on a nearby lake. Our camp was set up, and we lit a fire and went to bed, and were awoken later by a raccoon going through our camp, but that was all. We woke up Saturday morning with it raining a little. We decided to remain in camp until the rain stopped. When the rain eased up, we both decided to go hunting our separate ways in different locations. I was a confident hunter, being raised in the woods my whole life. My navigation skills were good, and I knew where I was going at. I set off on a path from the Kentucky-Tennessee state line that would lead to Trace Road. Still several miles from Trace Road, I walked through the woods on my hike with everything normal. Insect sounds, signs of turkeys and other wildlife. Halfway through the hike, I noticed there are now no sounds in the woods. I felt odd about this considering the high wildlife area I was in. I continued and did some locator calls to call in a male turkey or gobbler. I did get a few responses but saw nothing. I continued through my day. This went on for hours as I walked for miles. I was a younger man in those days and in good shape. Nothing stood out for me. I was enjoying my time as the hours went by. I got further and further from our camp and decided to take a break. Looking back now, it was a mistake to get so far from our camp. The turkey bow hunter in the Nissan pickup truck and a warning. Coming out of the woods, I came upon an old logging road that had not been used in a long time. I was sitting down drinking water and eating deer jerky I'd brought with us on this trip. I suddenly heard a motor noise which seemed odd considering how far back in the woods I was. I saw an old Nissan pickup truck coming toward me with one guy inside dressed in camo, so I knew he was a hunter. He pulled up close, got out, and I stood up to greet him. He was my same age or slightly younger. We hit it off really good. We joked around and called each other Bubba. He joked around about my gun being powerful and the turkeys not standing a chance. I asked him what he hunted with and he showed me his compound bow, which I laughed at. I never knew anybody that hunted turkeys with a compound bow. His skill level was very high though. He was a good shot. We spent a little time talking and visiting, and it got later in the afternoon and we both said we needed to get back to both of our camps. Lastly, he invited me to his camp and told me of his camp location along Trace Road, which was about a mile from where we were talking. We exchanged goodbyes. He said he was a fireman from Kentucky, and I told him I was a cop from Tennessee. As we were walking away, he said, "Hey, I didn't want to say anything, but keep your head up. There's been something circling my camp each night, keeping just out of light of the fire, so I can't see what it was. I asked him what he thought it was, and he said he didn't know. But he was here by himself, and it wasn't frightened, and he wasn't frightened. He said he had a firearm in his truck. His warning was casual and laid back. At the time, I should have paid more attention to his final words. At the time, though, I was too overconfident as a hunter and a younger man. I shrugged it off, and he drove off in his truck, and I went my way. I didn't give it any more thought. Even on my hike back, when I started noticing things, I didn't give his words much thought at all. As I hiked back, I had given up on turkeys, and it was getting a little dark. In the land between the lakes at night, you would hear the frogs and crickets, but I heard nothing. Sounds, whistles, and being stalked by multiple creatures. Honestly, I was not paying attention to my surroundings, but the further I walked, I began to hear noises, and then I hear one particular strange noise. Remember, I'm miles from any buildings or vehicles. The spot where I had talked to the hunter in his truck was the end of the road, the logging road where I had been previously, so I knew the sounds I was hearing were not coming from this guy earlier, because there was no way he could have been in the area I was in. The first sound was a metallic sound, as if a heavy metal door was scraping the floor and closing. The noise suddenly disappeared. Looking back now, that sound should have told me something was very wrong. It then became even more deathly quiet. Walking on after the noise, I was looking left and right and up to see if maybe this was an airplane overhead. I saw nothing. Nothing but quiet. Walking on, I began to see movement to the right of me, paralleling me. There was a ridge in the woods, and this was spring, and with all the trees, bushes, and brambles, I saw only movement about 250 yards away, running in the woods beside me, yet keeping its distance. I became convinced this was a pack of coyotes, which isn't unusual for the LBL. There can be packs of 20 to 25 coyotes in the woods at any time. But at this time, at sunset, it's primarily when they come out. I was seeing 2 or 3 apparitions or images of figures running through the woods, and still didn't have my guard up since I thought it was coyotes. Red wolves have been introduced into the LBL in 1993, with the public not knowing about it in general. Perhaps it was wolves, I thought. Then I started hearing loud, shrill whistling. One was 200 to 300 yards in front of me, and one was behind me further away. I can't see anything or anybody. I'm still thinking coyotes, wolves, or maybe a hunter with his dogs are in the woods with me. A coon hunter with trained dogs is not unusual for this area. I still had no fear at this point. The mysterious metallic sound. Then I heard another sound, a clampering sound like striking 2 rocks together. I thought maybe I was nearing our camp and my hunting buddy was using an axe to cut wood or had hit a tree. Maybe the whistles were coming from him for me. I had walked for miles, but slow pacing. Then I saw movement to my right again, and this time I noticed if they were hunters' dogs or coyotes, why haven't they approached or moved in on me to sniff me out? It hit me. This isn't dogs or coyotes, and I froze. When I stopped, they stopped. I knew something was wrong. I walked on, and every time I stopped, they stopped. Whatever they were keeping up with me. They were stalking me. A large shape, continued stalking, and a return to camp. Realizing these things were walking and stopping whenever I did showed intelligence in their stalking, and I became worried, and I reached for my shotgun and I put a round in the chamber. I've heard the weird noises, The animals around me are moving, and I see a little light from the setting sun coming down, and I'm facing the west half of the LBL, facing the direction of my camp. In front of me, I see a very large shape moving next to a couple of huge oak trees, which is how I gauged the size of this figure. A large person on two legs, I thought. Being a hunter, I've used ghillie suits many times, so in my mind, I'm seeing a large hunter in a ghillie suit in front of me. It made sense to me this had to be a hunter calling his dogs and doesn't like me being in this area, so I wrote it all off. Walking on, I've got some type of animals walking with me. I've got whistles, rock on rock, or rock on tree sounds, and I hear a second loud metallic sound. Though there are all these sounds trying to distract me, I'm still focused on the figure in front of me when it disappears from my view. How did it do that? Did it just duck behind the tree or what? I'm nervous, but I don't know what exactly is going on. I race back to camp and I begin to smell wood smoke. I see the path that runs down by the creek behind our camp, and crossing over the creek, I see the figure of my hunting partner, Harry, in the firelight. I yell at him to let me know it's me. I yelled at him to let him know it's me. Harry is pacing back and forth as I apologize about how long I had been gone. His face was one of distress, but not over me being gone so long, but with the other issues in the camp. I set my things down and we began to talk. Harry said during his midday hunt in a corn patch in a field, he found a good spot in the cornfield and got set up. Then he has objects being thrown at him. Harry was a big man and not frightened very easily. He said he had heard the same noises I had heard earlier in the woods, the whistles and the metallic sound. He thought it was a hunter harassing him. Being in an isolated area, there was nothing around I knew of to have made those sounds. Harry said a half-eaten, rotten corn cob came whizzing past his head from the woodline. It would have taken a strong arm. Had he upset a hunter or maybe two hunters? Would there be a showdown with these hunters? Was it violent moonshiners? As police officers, we thought this was one of the bad guys trying to run us out of his area. Multiple red eye glow, trees, rocks, and a growl. It's getting late at our camp and it was time to eat. We were looking forward to eating camp stew while discussing the day's events, including the large guy in the ghillie suit I saw between two trees. As police officers, we were confident no one would run us out of this area. It got totally dark and we had a small kerosene lamp, so there was... That's my water bottle, I'm sorry guys. Yellow flies are eating me up. As we're talking, I see something right at camp. I see something to the right of camp to the east. To the east were huge oak trees. I saw a small red glow by the tree. I thought it was a cigarette someone was trying to hide and smoke. Then Harry saw it. We both yelled we were from the sheriff's department and to come out and talk to us. We both saw then what we thought were two men behind the oak tree with two sets of glowing red eyes. But we still didn't know it was red eye glow. Then something on the ridge above us made noise. The noise got louder. Above us, a hurled object, a massive 30 to 50 pound rock, lands closer to Harry with a big thud. Now they're trying to kill us. Harry is yelling, "What the heck?" The noise toned by the oak trees was an intense growl that rattled us both inside. It was hideous in nature. It did something to us both and caused my heart to race very uncomfortably. We became nauseous and sick, and it became more intense. It was terrifying. I was frozen and I couldn't move. My friend was slumped down. Things were speeding up around us, but we were moving in slow motion. The dogmen attacked the camp. Bigfoot appear, Martin prays, and the escape. I felt something coming down the trail. Something inside I felt. I saw movement in the dim light. It walked in, a bipedal canine-like beast that's getting closer. The ears were pointing towards me. It's pacing left and right as it walks into the light, and I can see it sniffing the air as if it was sniffing the fear inside of me. It grins at me and exposes its teeth from 25 to 30 feet away. This shouldn't exist on Earth. Is it a hoax? A guy in a suit? I couldn't move but just think and wonder. I thought whatever this is, it's going to eat me or kill me. I prayed the Lord's Prayer in my mind and felt my mind was returning. Then I prayed out loud. I felt stronger. The intensity was still there, but I could move now. At some point, I moved, I grabbed my firearm, and I pointed it at this creature. And this beast or demon backed up, and I knew it was intelligent. Police have to make immediate decisions with a firearm. I was hesitant to pull the trigger because it looked like a man somewhat, and I lowered the gun. Then the beast moved towards me, and I fired twice. Harry fired 2 rounds also. The creature in front of me disappeared. We did hear sounds going up the back rock wall. Behind Harry, I did hear a scream and commotion in a nearby cane patch. The scream was a cross between a pig and something else. And I hear Harry running and leaving the camp. He's left me, and now I'm frightened beyond belief. I start running with my firearm, and I only remember reaching the back end of the pickup truck. Harry cranks the ignition, and I'm yelling to go. He turns the headlights on, and we see 150 yards in the cornfield patch where Harry had hunted earlier. There stands 2 different hideous creatures. One 8-foot Bigfoot on 2 legs, and one on all 4s like it was going to launch itself at us. They are not friendly. They bared their teeth. Sheer hatred from them. These Bigfoot were not pretty, but hideous. We felt we needed a more secure vehicle to get out of there faster. I'm looking at the Bigfoot expecting something to be thrown at us again, while expecting the canine-like beast on 2 legs by the fire to come again at us. As Harry drives the truck off, I hear him scream after he bumped into something, "I got one! I got one!" Meanwhile, I watch the canine-like beast tear our camp up and rip it to pieces. Up the ridge, I see a canine-like creature as well. The canine beast that was running alongside our truck is what Harry hit. I thought it surely wanted to pull me out of the back of the truck. My partner has lost control and is driving too fast. I'm beating on the top to stop and let me inside the cab to drive. He's driving out of the LBL towards the South Check Station towards Dover, Tennessee. Eventually he does stop and he lets me drive. Empty South Check Station and night watch. I got him calmed down enough, but he refused to report it to any ranger station. But he wanted to go home. I insisted to report it to the ranger check station. We need to tell them. We had discharged our firearms on some type of violent beasts. We get there and no one is there. It's dimly lit and empty. I found out that it's typical that no rangers man the check stations at the north or south end of the LBL after dark. I get out and look around the check station and the parking area. Harry is more determined than ever. We are not telling anybody. We are getting out of here. I made more strong demands that we were not leaving or would come back in the morning to report what had happened. He reluctantly agreed to return in the morning. Meanwhile, we drive back to the area where all this had happened. We stopped a few miles short of the campsite near the North Check Station and found a field on the side of the road where we can see for a long distance if any creatures are coming or going. We parked way off the road in an open area. We were both shook up and sick. We had soiled ourselves, with Harry soiling himself badly, so we are wet as well. He has thrown up a few times during the night. We were filthy and hungry, and while we sat there in that open field all night long, Harry's Harry stretched out inside with the doors locked. I lay on top of the truck watching all night with my firearm. All was quiet, nothing moved in the darkness in the distance, and I could faintly see the highway. Heavy scrape marks and reporting to the busy check station. When morning came, I sternly talked to him again how we needed to report this. We cleaned ourselves up. It was 9 or 10 a.m. and we examined the passenger side of our truck, and there was 3 heavy scrape marks with a 4th scrape coming down the side of the truck and stopped at the bumper where the creature had hung on, or where we had hit it as it clung onto the side and slid with its claws. We were very shaken, but got ourselves together and headed to the ranger station. We were a few miles away, and as we approached the station, to our surprise, it's a flurry of activity going on. No way at 9 or 10 a.m. would there normally be that much activity in the parking lot with both sides full of vehicles. Something big has happened. There were 2 or 3 news vans with large satellites on top. News reporters are everywhere standing around. There were marked and unmarked vehicles along with canine search and rescue dog vehicles with truck cargoes in the rear. With all of this activity, Harry didn't want to walk in, so I elected myself to walk in amongst the flurry of activity. I finally get someone's attention, and I said that we had an incident on our camp last night with creatures, or someone dressed as one, come into our camp. The ranger in charge freaked out and told me to be quiet and took me off to the side, and he said we would talk somewhere else. People were looking at me. There were people behind the counter staring me down, wondering what I saw. This ranger certainly didn't want to hear it at that time, and certainly didn't want me talking about it where people could hear. A few minutes later, he asked me what happened. I told him I was an active duty patrol unit in Robertson County, but I'm off duty currently and my partner was outside. I gave him the description of everything and broke it down. He said, well, you guys probably had bears moving in on you, but as police officers, you are supposed to be hunting bears. He was fabricating a false story that we had perhaps shot a bear out of season, without tags and so on. He was talking to us like we were idiots. This went on for a few minutes, and I said, that was not what happened here. And I said again, we had animals come in on us that are not supposed to exist. He took my ID while another officer talked to Harry outside. Harry took the other ranger out to the pickup truck to show him the 4 scratches down the side. Harry thought if the ranger wouldn't believe him, then the scratches on the truck might be proof of their story. The ranger was shaking his head and pointing as they talked back and forth. The ranger that spoke to me was checking our credentials and checking our firearms. He then calls my supervisor, who then forwards the call to our sheriff, and the ranger talks to him. I would find out later the ranger and our sheriff got into a good shouting match. The sheriff told the ranger we were his finest deputies, and if they say something happened, then it did, so listen to them. The ranger threatened to arrest me after I had talked back to him. He said he would arrest me for poaching bears out of season and being in possession of a handgun that were not allowed in the park. The sheriff reminded the ranger his deputies were to be armed 7 days a week, and the back of their license stated that. They both agreed to disagree. The ranger insisted they had no right to have handguns in the park. He was very mad at me. He takes a break and he walks away from me. After a while, I look up to see some friendly faces. I had been a widely noted elected member of the Fraternal Order of Police, so I knew a lot of police officers statewide in Tennessee. I went over to a familiar state trooper I knew to talk. I saw a local sheriff's department canine officer who worked for search and rescue, and here's what he told me. There was 2 turkey hunters walking through a camp early in the morning, and they had discovered a man that had been pulled out of his tent and killed and eaten on. They had reported what they found, and that's why there was such a flurry of people at the ranger station. The man had been hunting and in his tent when attacked, killed, and eaten. By this time, I was seeing red. I had been talked to like I was an idiot and fed a line of fabricated lies about what had happened to us. My partner Harry comes back now, and what he was told, there had been an armed robbery in one of the campsites at one of the campgrounds, and someone had been hurt, and this had nothing to do with us. We were just two city folks who saw a bear and got overly excited and imagined things. I was not a happy camper after hearing from Harry. Finally, the head guy in charge walks over to me and we had words. I told him I was tired of the BS being fed to us. I had hunted bear before in different states in the U.S., and these were not bears, and I'm tired of this. He gives me my credentials back, my ID, and he tells me to leave the park. He told us we were very lucky they didn't arrest both of us for hunting bear out of season, which, for the record, there is no bear hunting season in the state of Tennessee at any time. Bears were not even supposed to exist in the LBL according to Fish and Game. We left the park, and that ends this part of my story, but that was not all to my story. Now, Martin's reluctant return to work and the sheriff's confession. The day I was scheduled to return to work, I really didn't want to report in, but I did because of a call we had got. Our sheriff wanted to speak to us and get a full story on what had happened at the LBL. After he told us what had been said between himself and the LBL Rangers, he said he had been a state trooper before being a sheriff and was an avid bear and deer hunter and had hunted all over. When he was younger, he and another officer from the same academy had been on a weekend hunt, and they had observed a Bigfoot. It had crouched down to drink water in one of the waterways. It was possibly Jamestown or Catoosa, Tennessee. He said because of what normal people do, they had decided not to tell anybody, and especially being new state troopers. Returning and telling that they had been out hunting and had saw a Bigfoot may have led to them losing their jobs. The sheriff was a good guy, a deputy's best friend kind of guy. I did hunt bear and deer with him until he passed away. He was one fine individual. Does Bigfoot control dogmen? When asked what Martin thought about Dogman and Bigfoot both being there, Dogman being in the campsite tearing it up and two angry Bigfoot being illuminated in the truck headlights over the field of corn, whether he thought the reason was maybe both cryptids lived in the same area and were out to kill both men and the dogmen just got there first. Martin replied, I was convinced of a lot of things, but looking back, at that time I had no idea what I really saw, even though I was asked this by a movie director on what I thought I saw that night. Currently, right now, I'm thinking why Bigfoot was there also in the field. Was he there to protect me and my partner? Considering how it began when I was following a game trail and the noises I first started hearing, the whistling, and being stalked on different sides, I think the Bigfoot commanded the animals, which at first I would have never believed that. Now the metallic sound, a portal opening for the cryptids possibly? After what I have learned, what scares me now more than ever is when Joe Doyle from Hellbent Holler brought to my attention David Pilates' movie 411 The Hunted. And he said I needed to watch the part about the case of the missing hunter, Tom Messick, who went with a group of relatives to hunt an area he had been in many times before, and after separating, Tom disappeared from a tree stand never to be found. All the guys reported was hearing a metallic sound in the woods they had never heard before, like a metal door scraping the floor. It was the same sound I had heard in the woods twice. A metallic sound when I was being stalked. I don't know how I survived and didn't disappear, but I did survive. Whether it was the fight or flight mode, I don't know. It seemed the Bigfoot were in charge of what was taking place. Some insiders and visionaries say Bigfoot and Dogman are from the same otherworldly dimension, and Bigfoot are just another form of Dogman. Bigfoot released the Dogman to do whatever, like letting dogs off a leash. Martin Groves believed this was the case. He said, after hearing the metallic sound and being an avid hunter, where I didn't believe in monsters, that they really existed in the woods of Tennessee, but maybe only in California or the Pacific Northwest, I believe now that the metallic sound is a door or a portal opening to another dimension on my world. In my case, the metallic sound was the Bigfoot opening a portal for the Dogman to step out and stalk me to kill me, like a hunter releasing his dogs. Are we learning that Bigfoot command Dogman creatures, though they both have different rules? Were the Bigfoot angry the Dogmen were failing to catch Martin and his partner quick enough? Is the metallic sound a portal opening so some cryptid can step out? Are sky trumpets being heard, portals opening as well? Martin goes on, I've got friends on both sides of the aisle. Those who think Bigfoot and Dogmen are real humanoid light beings, and those that think there are no real cryptids in the LBL. With all the missing people in the national parks brought out by David Pilates, are Bigfoot and Dogmen all the same, using portals to catch people? The couple from Hellbent Holler recently were at the LBL and saw a light portal open with something stepping out, so they kept their distance and immediately left the area and returned later, which I think was wise on their part. Martin's new discoveries and portal cryptid encounter. It's easy for me to come out about this because it doesn't bother me anymore. When someone says they saw a portal, I believe them. Something has occurred. All of this stuff since 1993 led me on a quest. I stopped hunting in the LBL, but I continued hunting other places. I investigated and listened to hunters tell their stories at places on Trace Road over the years. People confided in me. Dewey Edwards, who has authored many times and had been into the LBL many times, we both have discovered many things over the last 6 months. I keep a diary. After 58 visits back to the park, we saw something on October 19th, 2022 that cannot be explained in the same general area as my 93 encounter that is a hotspot called the Devil's Backbone, and that leads up to Kentucky, but on the Tennessee side. I saw a portal open and a spider-like creature stepped out, one like I have never seen. The man with me, Daryl Denton from my county, who had been a mayor, the spider-like creature was in a crouched position beside the road, but it was translucent. I was trying to ignore what I was seeing. There was no logical way it could have happened except through a portal. Daryl said it was a huge creature and its head was as big as his passenger side window. It crosses the road behind us and it's translucent. Like we were not supposed to see it, but we happened to be there at that moment. We both became sick when we saw the creature. My throat closed off and the smell was like an awful acidic smell. I go into detail in my new book. Does the acidic smell come from the creature or from the portal itself? It's insane enough for people not to believe me. 58 expeditions into that park into certain areas with photos and measurements of footprints we took, and then we see a huge translucent spider-like creature crouched by the road. Like it didn't think we could see it. Now I find out others have seen huge spider-like creatures that are translucent. Other disappearances in Martin's new books. On his deathbed, my hunting police partner, Harry, who had been silent all these years, told me to tell our story and get it out there. He had wanted to protect his family by not revealing his name. Also in 2019 or 2020, a couple on the trail in the LBL disappeared on a hike. People searched for them. They were on the Tennessee side. They found their car. The family knew this husband and wife were going hiking in a certain area. When they didn't return, the family called and reported them missing. They were never found. The story seemed to disappear from the media. There was nothing to find. It's typical for people to become victims and disappear in the LBL, and the story goes away. Guys, I'm hearing stuff around me. I wanted my story to come forward along with the other deaths in the LBL and surrounding states, killed by unknown wild animals. Pit bulldogs have taken the brunt of the blame, which isn't fair. They have attacked people, but not in these strange cases. My new books are entitled Beast Between the Rivers by Martin Groves and A Trace of Death by Martin Groves, which covers other deaths and disappearances. The second one is named after the Trace Road where a lot has happened. It's a beautiful area, but holds a sinister past like two brothers shooting a gorilla wolf-like creature way back in 1902. Martin Groves' final thoughts and realization. One last thing I need to say. When this beast walked into our camp that night and showed its teeth, I could see it clearly. Its hands and claws. Its left hand and claws had a hunk of dripping fresh meat in it. To this day, I don't know what it was from. I have my ideas, and others have told me what they thought it was from. You have to remember, we were only 1 to 2 miles from where the bow hunter I had met earlier in the day was dragged out of his tent and killed and eaten that same night we were attacked. That hunk of fresh meat could have been from this murdered bow hunter. And that's the end of this article. Guys, please check out our brother Don Moore's YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. He will have videos that have the pictures that go with these articles on his channel. Please take a minute to go over there and subscribe, support him. I would absolutely appreciate it, and I know that he would. Brother Don is, he's just a phenomenal man, Christian fella, and I would absolutely do anything in this lifetime for him. I'll do anything in the next lifetime for him. He's an amazing human being. He does a lot. He helps whoever he can help, and he's phenomenal. If you take the time to get to know him, that'll be one of the greatest blessings that you've had. But anyway, the pictures for it, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm kind of in a rush. I don't know if you guys are hearing that thumping like sound that was coming from behind me. Trying to figure out where to... Oh, these yellow flies. Good gracious. Trying to get all my stuff put up. I'm going to have so many whelps on me from these things. I got to get the dolly tied up on the four-wheeler. Get my nasty water bottle that fell off the bench and is covered in sand. Gee whiz. Let me pull this camera up. I'll show you guys where we're at. There's the waterfall right there. And I opened up that deer trail up the other side so we can actually park right there, which is closer to the house, a lot closer, and we can come down right there. And then I cleared all of this area, so it's nice and open, beautiful scenery right here. Just a phenomenal place. And of course, there's my bench. Here's some little steps that I carved into the ground to make climbing the hill a little easier. And there is my motion. All right, I'm gonna put this stuff up, get loaded on the four-wheeler, and I'll probably throw the camera on the front of the four-wheeler. I can't even talk. I'll put it up here on the front, and you guys can see the ride back. See how far we are from the house. It's not far. Give me just a minute, and we'll be loaded up, and we'll be headed that direction. All right, you guys, I hope that stays. It flipped over 15 or 20 times when I was dragging that bench down here. Now I'm getting out of here. I was tying that up, and back over there, I can't tell how far. It's not real far, but it sounds like if you were to take a pillowcase full of sand and drop it on the ground, like making a thud noise, like somebody jumping off something fairly high onto the ground. It was almost like a banging sound, but it was a thud, like something hitting the ground. And it was 4 times, just thud, 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 thud. And it was back that way. I don't know how far. But anyhow, I'm going to put this camera right here, filming forward, and we're going to get out of here. I'm going to lock it down. It's not going to see behind me. Is it on? It's on. All right. See if I can get out of here. It's getting really creepy. It's later than I thought it was.